corrupt the. What is going on out there, peeps? All right, so in one of my videos, I brought up I think I called it Operation Truth by accident, but it's Operation Trust. I had brought up the fact that when dealing with any kind of information, you should question everything. Always question everything that you hear, good or bad for that matter. I told you guys that I had a friend that is ex-CIA, and for a good part of 20 years, we've been friends, and just what is going on out there, peeps? All right, so in one of my videos, I brought up I think I called it Operation Truth by accident, but it's Operation Trust. I had brought up the fact that when dealing. What is going on out there, peeps? All right, so in one of my videos, I brought up I think I called it Operation Truth by accident, but it's Operation Trust. I had brought up the fact that when dealing with any kind of information, you should question everything. Always question everything that you hear, good or bad for that matter. I told you guys that I had a friend that is ex-CIA, and for a good part of 20 years, we've been friends, and just one day he was being sincere and serious. He goes, look, we've been friends a long time. And one of his warnings to me were, when it comes to intelligence agencies, don't trust any of them. He said, your worst enemy could be your closest friend, and you wouldn't know it. But that when you're dealing with any kind of information, especially stuff that's claiming to be intelligent information, you really have to question everything. You really do. Be skeptical of everything. Take a look at the information coming to you. Figure out the pros and cons. What is the purpose of the information? What could the agenda behind it be? So we did. We talked about this, Operation Trust. And people are saying, oh, can you explain that a little more? I got some information I'll share with you. And then I will leave the links for you guys to come check it out yourself. Now, before we get into this, I understand there are a lot of people out there, who are so locked in their conviction as far as their faith in this Q movement. So I get that. So whenever you say anything that might appear to be negative towards the Q movement, people tend to lose their crap, if you get my drift. Okay? Again, this is not in any way, shape, or form to take a side. This is my way of saying, do you see what I'm talking about? You should think about it both ways. When everybody was talking about, no, man, this thing's done. Trump's already won. We got clones running around. I was like, no, don't do that. All right. But like I said then, hey, at least compromise, meet me halfway. And what did I say? That in case these aren't clones, then we should at least continue to keep our guard up. Having said that, let's talk about what Operation Trust is because it may sound very familiar to you. A quick reminder, everybody, if you're thinking about buying precious metals, give a consideration to our friends over there at Money Metals Exchange. If you are a first-time buyer here in the United States or Puerto Rico and you spend more than $100, use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and get a free half ounce of silver. You guys know I got Pimpy's Investment Chat over there on Facebook. It is an investment group. Feel free to come and join us. We talk about gold, silver, cryptocurrencies, as well as foreign currency investments. All right. Over here, you guys know I'm on Library. It's the same as YouTube without all the censoring. You can go through here and see all my videos without them being edited, removed, or censored in any way, shape, or form. So again, they're free to come join. Check them out. All right, so let's talk about this, okay? Because parts of what was known as Operation Trust are still being used today. And in my opinion, that's pretty much what the Q movement was. I told everybody in past videos, we got to be careful about this whole Q movement because I felt like it was doing something that I was concerned about. One, when people were posting and sharing information from the Q movement in the groups, it was you can then easily identify those who were involved in followers of QAnon, as well as who were Trump supporters. It was easy to target them. As a matter of fact, so easy, we saw what happened. And don't be surprised if what they weren't trying to do when Trump first got in office was figure out how to target Trump supporters and then silence them before an election. And that's exactly what happened. So that would be a type of thing that would happen within the trust, Operation Trust. They wanted to go around and identify certain people. They wanted to figure out who those were. So here, let's kind of sum it up real quick so you can understand what I'm about to say. So this Operation Trust, so Lenin, when during the Bolshevik Wars, so you had people who wanted to return back to being, led by the czars. They were in charge for like 400 years. So they wanted to go back to the monarchy, going back to the days of being ruled by the czars. All right, they were known as the whites. Then you had those individuals, such as Lenin, who were, I believe, it was called the provisional government. But later that would change. Lenin would change and implement a new type of government that's installed to this day. So they were called the Reds. So communism, of course. So you had a civil war that was going back and forth. While the problem with Lenin and his ability to advance forward was a strong opposition. Okay, and they were known as the whites again. But the problem with the whites were there were so many different groups and they were so scattered that they became an easy target for this operation because they weren't really organized. All right, and there were so many groups. So to put it this way, we'll kind of show you what they did. So the trust, as a Czechus, operation directed and designed to disorder the anti-Bolshevik white immigrations at the dawn of the Soviet power, is today the motto of a prototype for Vladimir Putin's approach to the Russian Orthodox Church and Russian nationalism at home and abroad. So, what this operation basically did was, here you can see right here. The operation had two goals, a historian said. It was intended to smoke out genuine monarchists inside the country. They were able to identify who were supporters of the monarchy. It's real simple. So in the Q movement, if I'm saying this was the exact operation just done a different way, it would make sense to me if we're all preaching about how powerful and corrupt the deep state is. how they're all part of our government and part of a bigger global community that are rich and powerful and have they have they could do psyops and all this other stuff, then wouldn't it make sense for them to have learned from history and implemented this so-called Q movement during Trump's time in office? I mean, it just makes sense to me. Again, I don't want you to misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying that the Q movement wasn't real, but you should question it altogether. All the things that we were told were going to happen have not happened. As a matter of fact, you still got people out there going, no, don't worry about it. Trump is in control. The white hats, this, that, this. But you notice you're using white hats, black hats. I get that. Good guys, bad guys. Whites, reds, during Operation Trust. So one of the goals of the operation was to be able to identify those who support the monarchy. I would say the QAnon movement, one of the things it would be used for would be to identify Trump supporters. I showed you guys a hacked document in which there was, research done on the type of support that Trump had. It was very powerful, and they were very determined. And what they discovered was they could not find a way to separate Trump's from his supporters. And that over time, even on the hacked document, one of the suggestions that they had to kind of either delay or stop the 2016 election was using Antifa and Black Lives Matter to do riots. But they said in their findings were that would not be useful because 70% of the Black Lives Matter who originally started with BLM are now Trump supporters. You guys really got to go find that video. That just shows you the amount of support, and it only grew over time. Now, the Q movement could be a big part of why Trump successfully grew as big as he did. I'm sure they had some part of it. Most people were under the impression that there was, this plan to save the children of the world from pedophiles. And there's no doubt about this. I can tell you this. And just the research that I've done over the 4 years, there were more arrests dealing with children's sex trafficking under the Trump administration than ever in our time. As a matter of fact, some of the biggest websites were taken down. So, that either only led more to the credibility of the Q movement. Were they seeing these things happening before the masses did and then used it to their advantage? Or did they know that Trump was going to be targeting children's sex trafficking and again made that part of their messaging? We don't know because nobody knows who Q is. Everybody assumes, my assumption is that if there is a true Q movement, then I have no doubt that it would either be controlled or the brainchild of Ezra Whatnick. That guy is the perfect person to be Q. Okay, so the two goals in Operation Trust was to identify those who were loyal to the monarchy. Well, again, let's bring it back to what the Q movement would be, to identify those who would be loyal and supportive of Trump. So they also, and it was designed to control and restrain the activities of the immigrant militant groups. Well, the same could be said about the Q movement. I said this myself, that if anything, the Q movement made, in my opinion, those who would rise up and bear arms to stop what we saw happening. It kept everybody docile. It kept people from rising up. It kept people from exercising their constitutional rights, which is to abolish and establish a new government. Okay, if I'm being honest, I was shocked that there wasn't more done. There was a bigger expectation by me that true patriots would rise up in such large numbers and take this country back, and we never saw that. Now, in the Q movement, they use that verbiage, but I think they would have if the Q movement is indeed another one of these Operation Trust. Again, we're going back and forth on whether it could have been a psyops or whether it could have been a real movement. So let's go back and forth. So this way we have contrast. Okay. So if this is one of those Operation Trust, uh, you know, movements, then again, it did a great job of, in my opinion, of keeping people from rising up and using their, rights to bear arms. And then going in there and then again using their constitutional right to abolish the current government and establish it with a new one. We did nothing. We saw the event that took place on November 3rd. We gathered in huge rallies, but that was it. The Q movement did a phenomenal job, in my opinion, of keeping a true revolution from happening. That's just my opinion. I know we're told, oh yeah, trust the plan, trust the plan. I know I've heard you guys say to me many times when I was going on and on about stuff, saying that these things are clones and that Trump's already won and that we're just watching a movie. That's exactly what the Operation Trust would have been. They would have wanted you to believe this. So over time, even like the Nasera Jacera movement, the Q movement, there were some core principles that were going on. And then people just kind of took it upon themselves to exaggerate situations. And, they put themselves out there as potential insiders of Q, people who knew things, stuff like that. And they just fed onto the stories and took it to whole other levels. Like there were already people locked up in Gitmo. Even though I told you guys, where are you getting this information from? There is no proof that that's happened. None whatsoever. Just like when I asked you guys about the clones, where are you getting that from? There is no proof that that's happened. Oh, yeah, George Soros was executed. What are you talking about? I just watched him literally do a live show interview. No, that's CGI. That's a clone. No. I was like, oh, good Lord. Man, this is exactly what I was concerned about the Q movement would do. Was take people down this rabbit hole where they were not questioning things, trusting everything 100%, and believing every crazy story that came out. It worked to the T if this was the trust operation. Still working today, by the way. So if this Operation Trust were to become a Q movement later on, did it accomplish the two goals that were set here? Was it able to identify those who are supportive of Trump? Because think about this. Remember, during the Obama administration, when they wanted to go ahead and start opening up these FEMA camps, remember the Q movement told us there's a 16-year plan, whether you believe it or not. Their goal was to identify those who would be very hard to re-educate, to reform. Those who were lovers and supporters of our Constitution and our traditional American ways. They needed to find a way to identify them. We know that under the Obama administration, they were struggling to figure out how to identify those individuals. And I told you there was a military man who came out and testified that, when they were talking with Obama about, they had estimated there was 25 million Americans that could not be reformed or re-educated, that they were too loyal to the old America, the Constitution, its flag, period. And when asked, well, then what do you do with those 25 million? Obama said, erase them, kill them. that they could not afford a counter-revolution. Lenin, with his people, are credited for coming up with the Operation Trust. There was a plot you're going to see here in a little bit to an attempt to assassinate Lenin. It failed, but now Lenin, feeling a little skittish, needed to identify those who would become a threat to him. So if we're saying that Obama was well on his way of pushing this new world order, if this is all the things we're saying, then wouldn't it make sense that they need to find a way quickly to identify any and all of those individuals who they know would not just fully cooperate with the New World Order, otherwise known as a Great Reset, that they would be a counter-revolution. So again, Lenin, part of the reason for his need to launch Operation Trust was they need to identify those who would oppose them, start a counter-revolution. You're going to see that, okay? So did the Q movement do that? Did it do a wonderful job of identifying those individuals who they knew could not be converted or re-educated or reformed, and identify those individuals who are likely to start a counter-revolution against this Great Reset? Yes, not only yes, but hell yes. Not only were they able to identify those type of individuals here in this country, they were able to use it and identify it worldwide. So this QAnon movement, if it's anything like Operation Trust, they used it to identify all people around the world who were Trump supporters and supported his message of nationalism, which is, think of your people first before you go out helping other individuals. People who believed in their country's traditional ways and would not change, or I should say the traditional American ways, which is, again, the Constitution. This is the oldest living document. There have been other versions of constitutions, but they did not survive. Our document, in all of its glory, has survived the test of time, and when implemented and used properly, we had a country unlike any other country in the world. A country that other immigrants came to. And that's all about the change. So if the trust was, again, here's your two goals, but we're going to come over here to this, and I'll leave a link for this. This is a whole document as a write-up. It's a thesis on what the trust was, okay? And you can see here it's talking about this. So the Tsar Nicholas just kind of, gave himself the throne and said he was a leader of all of Russia. And it lasted about 8 hours. Yep. So the provisional governments lasted approximately 8 months. Lenin and the Bolsheviks grasped power during the October Revolution of the same year and started to form the government that still rules Russia today. Okay, so again, the country is locked in, I believe it's a 4-year civil war. You have the whites versus the reds. The whites being those who supported the monarchy, the reds who supported what Lenin was doing, okay? So, there's a lot more detail about what the trust was trying to accomplish here, but, again, I'm just trying to sum this up a little bit. So this goes on into detail. It explains to you the roles of everybody up above, but you get over here to page 22, and it starts to lay out how it all got implemented, how it got planned, how it got implemented, okay? It tells you how the all the different groups, how they all had the same interests, but were not organized, and there was a lot of them, and how they were easily a target for disinformation known as Operation Trust, and how they fell for it. Okay, it goes on to tell you when it first happened in here. It gets into a lot of detail. I'm just sharing that with you in case you want to come and check this out. I highly recommend it. For those of you who are Q followers and Q supporters, I say read this and then come up with your own conclusion. And that is, does this sound very familiar to you? Okay. Did we get duped? Because it's possible. I told you guys. Now, when you bring that up, you're going to get people who get all bent out of shape. They get pissy about it. You know, they suffer from cognitive dissonance. In other words, you guys believed in something so much that even if presented with the truth that this could have been a psyops and we got suckered, you don't want to hear it. You're too emotionally vested in this. You and your family members fought over this movement. You've been ostracized. You've been attacked. And you fought like hell to be part of this movement and to support it. So to hear any evidence to the contrary that Q movement could have been a psyops, fake, and used to identify those individuals who would possibly start a counter-revolution against this great reset, you don't want to hear that. I suggest you just go through here and just read it all in detail because there's a lot of similarities. Okay, guys? Anyways, it goes on in here, it gets into details on how the whole thing got started and why it got started. You know what I mean? It says right here, look at this. The trust thus came into being from various ideas and plans that I believe it's Dzerzhinsky, okay? I'm probably going to catch crap. Presented to Lenin. Lenin always worried about the threat of counter-revolution. So Obama, what was he saying when they were getting ready to implement the New World Order agenda known as the Great Reset? When talking to their people, they said they were concerned, and they had estimated that approximately 25 million Americans would be a threat to start a counter-revolution. Very similar. Especially from the migrate groups, the militia groups. That's what this is. Especially from the militia groups. Sound familiar? Sounds familiar. So, Dzerzhinsky was more concerned with the leaders of these groups, that is, again, these militia groups. During the Lockhart plot, Dzerzhinsky had run across Riley and Savinkov and was determined to bring them under his control to destroy them. So what the Lockhart plot was to kill Lenin is what it was. It was a plot to go after Lenin. So again, now how do you identify those who are loyal in your group versus those who are not loyal in your group? You would start an operation just like this. Something like a Q movement. A Q movement brought everybody to a pegboard, a posting board. Everybody went. It was easy on a computer to keep track of who went and who came and how often they did it. If you got somebody who's obsessed with these things and they're there every day, multiple times a day, that's a pretty good way to identify those who are most likely to start a counter-revolution. As a matter of fact, if you think what the whole Q movement is, it is just that. It's a counter-revolution. They had started a revolution to change the United States from its constitutional republic and wanted to bring it more under the communist regime. We know that there's a push for socialism here in this country. We know that for a fact. We know that the Great Reset is a socialist movement, if you've been paying attention to my videos. So how are they going to know which individuals would be a true threat to the Great Reset communist movement? I mean, seriously, if you think about it, the Great Reset, this is a socialist movement. Wouldn't they know about this history? Wouldn't they know about this operation already? Of course they did. Of course they did. Now we got all kinds of pictures from the Q movement of things inside Trump's plane, pictures that were taken, but really was there a way to validate these pictures? These could have just been pictures taken and released within the government for people to go over and decide which ones to use for, oh, I don't know, promotional uses or for official uses. So they're just photos that got around. No big deal. That happens all the time. And then somebody that's part of this, psyop said, look, let's use these photos and we'll say it's this. Again, I get it. I'm going to do both sides because people are going to go, wait a minute, remember they told us about, Bush dying? Remember the old dog grade, that whole thing? Yeah. Is it possible that the people within this operation already knew that Bush Sr. was about to die, and when they were notified within seconds of his death, they went ahead and did the Q post, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden the announcement was made and it happened to coincide. Or did they plan to make the announcement at the time that Q told us all it would happen, giving it the appearance that they knew something ahead of time? Wouldn't that make sense if you are a psyops, that all these things, information that you got, you would say, hey, look, let's use this information to our advantage. We just heard Bush Sr. died. Yeah, real quick, fill out a post, say this, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And then we'll make the official announcement at this time, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And you do it. What does that do? It gives a lot more credibility to the Q movement. Because now people are like, man, Q called it right on the money, man. Oh, man, did he? Did he really say that? He, she, they. Again, if we're all talking about how powerful and secretive and, advanced this deep state is, then wouldn't it make sense that they would have the ability to know this information? I'm just throwing that out there. So the part of the trust operation, again, was used to identify those individuals who would be considered the whites, okay, and who were loyal to the whites or to the monarchy. And that includes leaders. So it also went ahead and kept the migrate, which is the militants, from rising up and opposing Lenin. They were easy to keep at bay. They trusted this thing, the Operation Trust, because it told them to stand by, and that there were people within the government, within Lenin's people, that were whites. Sound familiar? And just let them do their job and trust the plan. They actually use that in here, by the way. Trust the plan. You ever thought about trust the plan is more like trust in big capital letters, and underneath it, the plan. And that's just a play on words. And then wouldn't that be clever from somebody who is doing psyops to go, don't you get it? The plan is Operation Trust. Don't you get it? Trust. The plan is trust is the plan. Operation Trust is the plan. So trust the plan. That'd be clever from somebody who's doing psyops. I know a lot of people don't want to hear this. But we just watched things happen the past 4 years that I never thought I would see in my lifetime. People openly advocating for socialism in our country. People taking a knee against our flag and anthem. You have Antifa and BLM paid protesters for the most part. Some people are there legitimately tearing down communities, and nothing was done to stop them. You had politicians supporting them. You had actors and entertainers supporting them, bailing them out of prison, not charging them with crimes. But anybody that would be considered a follower of Trump or QAnon, if you did anything, they went after you using the full force of the law. Look at that kid Kyle running around with his AK, shot people in self-defense. They're still trying to find a way to charge this guy. All they're going to do is make examples of these people. Remember those rich white people who came out with guns because people are trespassing on their property? Yeah. What did they do? They went after them. They didn't go after the trespassers who threatened to shoot them and kill them. No, no, no. They went after the people who stood up for their constitutional rights. Pay attention to those who are being targeted and those who are being let free to continue the chaos. We see what's happening now. Staunchest Trump supporters within our own government are being attacked, being accused of starting in being implicit in this so-called attack on our capital. Well, that's what Hitler did with the Reichstag fire. It's the same thing. They plot out a false flag event, make it happen, make it look like another group did it, then they have an excuse to go after them. I keep telling you guys, you think about the mother of all false flags coming. You will see, I guarantee it, this is going to be their ultimate way to shut most of these people down that were identified under Operation Trust or the QAnon movement. And that is, they're going to fake this big major uprising of Trump supporting, QAnon loving, constitutional flag waving people with guns, and you're going to see a bunch of mass shootings, and that they're trying to, they're taking over the government. They're going to make all these things, and they're going to broadcast it, and then magically they're going to get them under control, and then that's going to be their excuse to run around and take all your guns. It's going to be their excuse to then do away with your constitutional right to freedom of speech. They're already doing it now. They're going to say you can't. Hate speech is not good speech. Therefore, the law is going to be, if we think that you are using hate speech, then we have the right to tell you whether or not you could do it. And we're going to pass laws that punish you for things that are considered hate speech, such as what? You can't talk about your support for Trump. You can't talk about your support for the GOP. You can't talk about the deep state. Do you see what I'm saying? It's going to be all those types of things. In other words, they're not going to allow people to communicate with one another because it becomes a threat of a counter-revolution. It's already happening. We are being silenced, censored, removed off social media platforms. Look what happened to Parler. They took them off an internet provider. Look what they're using PayPal for. So basically, big tech has been merged and consolidated into a small group of people who control what we see and hear on the news and on social media platforms. That's very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. But they've learned so much under Trump's 4 years, especially if the QAnon movement was the same thing as Operation Trust. They know every single flag-waving, constitutional-loving person out there. They were easy to identify because of this QAnon movement. It did exactly the same thing the Trust did. So when somebody tries to bring this to your attention, you shouldn't get pissed at the messenger. That doesn't mean you have to believe what you're being told. Because I can already see right now the gears are grinding. People are like, well, Pimpy, how do you know that we're not being told about Operation Trust? Because they're trying to separate Trump and Q from their supporters. Do you see how that works? This is why I say question everything. This is why I'm saying don't take everything at face value, you guys, and always take a look at when something comes forward, information comes forward to you, look at the pros and cons, see what it is they're trying to present to you, and then see if you can spot a hidden agenda behind it. Look, I was a Q follower supporter, but I did it with a grain of salt. I liked all the information. I really felt like if there was truly any evidence that there was a time travel, it would be the QAnon movement. They just somehow always managed to know things before they happened. But there's no doubt, and there's nobody out there that can say that we weren't misled to some degree. Saying that, hey, look at Gitmo was expanded because there's going to be all kinds of trials. But did you ever stop to think about whose trials? Yeah, we were told these deep state swamp creatures were all going to get arrested and stuff, and that's who's going to be there. But is it really? Is it really? Or are they going to lock up those individuals who are the highest risk and most powerful people and most likely to start a counter-revolution against the Great Reset that's coming our way? Again, we just watched 4 years of the biggest one-sided onslaught against a president, unjustified. The media attacked him. We saw entertainment, the music, television, movies. We saw it everywhere. Social media platforms. We complained about it, but nothing else was done about it. And those who were in position of power, they were attacked. Any kind of legal team that supported Trump was under attack, to the point where the lives were being threatened and they had to stop, representing Trump. Do you see this? Do you see what they're doing to Lynn Wood? Do you see what they're doing to Sidney Powell? Do you see what they're doing to Rudy Giuliani? Do you see what they did to anybody associated with Trump? These people manufactured crimes. They attempted a coup against their president, and nothing happened about it. We just watched an event happen on November the 3rd. We all saw what happened. Now you got the media saying that what we claim to have happened on November the 3rd is not true. It doesn't exist. You're not seeing what you think you're seeing. No, it's all in your head. It's fake. Nothing to see here. Move on. We just watched the President of the United States be denied his constitutional rights to due process. We saw courts at the state appellate, state Supreme Court, and Supreme Court levels, all of them, violate due process and refuse to see or hear evidence that might shed light on what actually happened on November 3rd. This is the President of the United States we're talking about. We watch big tech censor him, and them try to tell us, oh, it's misinformation, it's misleading. They perfectly, and you know what they were doing? Each time they're testing a little bit more of what they can get away with to see what everybody else would do. And you know what everybody else did? We complained about it, but those who complained too much were removed off the platforms. And what did that get you guys? Nothing. They did exactly what they wanted you to do. Operation Trust did the same thing. Each one was a test case. Did anybody do anything? We went to rallies. Hell yeah, we did. Big time rallies. The biggest this country's ever seen. And what did it get us? Nothing. Not only did the same people get back into power, now they control the presidency, the Senate, and the House. They're going after anybody and everybody who would oppose them. Cruz, Hawley. You got AOC, Seabiscuit in there telling everybody that my life is threatened. I can't function in there. These people are dangerous. I'm afraid they might kill me. Do you hear this rhetoric? That kind of shit never would have happened 12, 15 years ago in our government. You try to say something like that with no proof, no evidence, openly talk about being a socialist? How the hell did we allow socialists in our government? How do we continue to allow people we know are compromised by chai, like Swellwell sleeping with a spy, Dianne Feinstein's driver was a spy? How do we allow these people to continue to be in government? How did they ever get a security clearance? How is Mitch McConnell married to a woman whose father is best friends with the chairman of the CCP? How do these people get security clearances? Why are we allowing this to happen? Oh, I remember now, because we're told to trust the plan. Do you see how that works? Do you see when other individuals tell you guys to take a step back? Look at things from 35,000 feet and not 300 feet. You have to see the bigger picture. This is why. I like the principles of the Q movement. I like what their intentions seem to be. But what was ever accomplished? Seriously, what has been accomplished under the Q movement? We heard drain the swamp, but it never was drained. Seriously, they're right back in power and now more powerful than ever. What do they have in their arsenal? Well, now they have big tech censoring us. Our freedom of speech are being violated. People are systematically being targeted for those who try to oppose this great reset. You're being targeted. The QAnon movement mapped out exactly where everyone around the world would be a problem and have potential to be a counter-revolution to this New World Order movement that's coming. It's the same thing that Operation Trust did to help Lenin. So, I will leave the links to these. This is just one of those things I say to you, hey, look, think about this. Think about what we just witnessed. What was actually accomplished? Was anything accomplished? I mean, seriously, did they really drain the swamp? Did they? Because Comey's still running around. Nothing happened to him. McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, where are they? They in jail? Pelosi, Schumer, these corrupt Democrats, where are they? Soros, the Pope, where are they? They're still in power. Nothing has changed. The only thing has changed is how easy it is to identify Trump supporters, QAnon supporters, people who would be considered patriots, and lovers of our constitutional republic. And we are all being targeted. People are being put on the no-flight list. You got AOC and them saying, identify these people, don't ever give them jobs. You're being erased off social media platforms. Some of you are now not even talking to your family members because of this movement. So instead of getting all down and bummed out about it, and just say to yourself, okay, let's say that this indeed was another version of Operation Trust, and it did exactly like Pimpy is saying. Don't you need to take a step back and say, fine, then what can you take out of this Q movement that's positive? One is the overwhelming mass number of people that supported the movement, which means that the numbers of Q people outnumber those who are not supporters, in my opinion. There are more American patriots out there than not. We're allowing the media to take a little tiny handful of people, put them on the news all the time and go, look, America is against this. They're tired of the flag. They hate the Constitution. They don't want the Electoral College. That's a lie. There might be maybe 5% of the people in this country that believe in that. The rest all absolutely support our constitutional republic. So just take out from this at least the amount of the unity you got of true patriots. That's one thing. Take the information that I shared with you and go, okay, wait a minute. What if they are now able to identify? How do I prepare myself now? What are the countermeasures to this? Well, now you have to find alternative ways to communicate, because they're taking down all social media platforms that are free speech platforms like Parler. They're removing YouTube channels that speak about it. They're removing profiles and groups on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. They do it no problem, and nothing is being done to them. That's because nothing's going to be done to them. They're all part of the same agenda I told you about. So what is the counter to that? Well, people are now on telegraphs. But guess what? Now they're going to start shutting down telegraphs. Every time you find a new platform, you'll notice that the Democrats go, that is dangerous. That's a gathering of white supremacists. They are a threat to our nation. Therefore, we must target whatever instrument they're using to communicate. They're not going to let you communicate. That's a threat to them. Handheld radios, get them. CBs, get them. Learn how to use them. Better go old school. You better find other ways to communicate. So what we've learned in the past 4 years, as they have learned how to identify all those people who would be a threat to and create a counter-revolution, those individuals who are supporters of a constitutional republic. They've also learned that, there is a large number of us. They also learned that they need to shut down your rights to free speech, and they'll use excuses like, free speech is free speech, but hate speech is not covered under the amendment, your constitutional rights. They're just going to keep lying. They're just going to keep changing everything and saying, well, this is your right under the Constitution, but you don't have the right. No, it doesn't limit your free speech. You have the right to talk about whatever you want, but they're limiting that. They're violating our constitutional rights. Second Amendment's coming. There's going to be a huge false flag, and they will use the UN if they have to come in and take our guns. They've already said so. So now that they kept everybody at bay, they're able to identify who we all are. Those individuals who are going to start a counter-revolution, they're able to keep most militant groups or militia groups at bay without doing anything. And now they're ending your way to communicate. Do you see what's going on here? Do you see what this Q movement has done? It's done exactly what it was meant to do. The same thing as Operation Trust. You guys go check it out. Let me know what you think. Hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I surely do appreciate it. And I don't want you guys to get bummed up about it. A lot of people really believe in this movement, still do to this day. Again, it doesn't mean it's not real, but I'm saying that you should kind of weigh out both sides. What I said in this video, is that, let me ask you this, you can put in the comments, whether you are a huge Q follower or not, what I said in this video, is that at least possible? Let me know what you think.